Sean Diddy Combs was on the scene of one of the most high-profile rapper assassinations in history.
This young man, lost his life throughout this journey.
For the first time in a long time, Diddy has spoken up from behind bars, and he is talking about the one subject everyone has been waiting for, the death of the notorious B.I.G. But he didn't do it in an interview. He didn't do it in a song. He did it in a desperate letter to a judge, trying to save his own life. What he said has left everyone in shock. Did he confess? Or is he using his dead best friend to save his own skin? The truth is darker than you can imagine. The letter that changed everything. It was October 2025. Diddy had been locked up for over a year. He was sitting in the special housing unit, far away from the glitz and glamour of his white parties. He was facing a judge who was about to decide his fate. He had already been found guilty of transportation for prostitution. He was looking at years in prison. He needed a miracle. So he picked up a pen and paper. He wrote a 4-page letter to Judge Aaron Subramanian. In this letter, Diddy tried to paint a picture of a man who had changed. He claimed the bad boy we all knew was gone. He wrote, "The old me died in jail, and a new version of me was reborn." He told the judge that prison either changes you or it kills you, and he chose to live. He said he didn't care about money or fame anymore. He said the only thing that mattered was his family. He admitted he was broken to his core. He talked about his past wrongs. He apologized for the pain he caused. But then, his legal team stood up in that courtroom and dropped a bombshell that made the whole room freeze. His lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, looked at the judge and tried to explain why Diddy's life had gone off the rails. He didn't blame the money. He didn't blame the power. He blamed the death of Christopher Wallace, Biggie Smalls. The lawyer argued that Diddy got hooked on drugs and lost his way because he never got over seeing his best friend murdered in 1997. He told the court that Diddy's addiction and his bad behavior were all because of the trauma of that night in Los Angeles. Think about that for a second. For 30 years, people have whispered that Diddy knows more about Biggie's death than he admits. Some have even accused him of setting it up. And now, here he is, sitting in a federal jail cell, using Biggie's death as an excuse for his own crimes. He is telling the judge, "Have mercy on me because I'm a victim of that tragedy too." It was a bold move. It was a desperate move. But it was the first time in years that Diddy openly used the Biggie tragedy as a shield in a court of law. He broke his silence, but not to give us answers. He did it to ask for sympathy. But if he thought that would make people feel sorry for him, he was wrong. Because while Diddy was writing letters about being reborn, prosecutors in Las Vegas were digging up dirt that could bury him forever. The $1 million bounty. While Diddy was begging for mercy in New York, a storm was brewing out west. The Las Vegas police have been trying to solve the murder of Tupac Shakur for almost 30 years. And in 2024 and 2025, they finally made a huge move. They arrested a man named Dwayne Keefe D. Davis. Keefe D. isn't just some random guy. He is a former gang member who claims he was in the car that shot Tupac. But when the police started asking him questions, he didn't just talk about Tupac. He started talking about Diddy. And what he said is terrifying. Prosecutors filed documents in court that mentioned Diddy's name 77 times. That is not a typo, 77 times. In these documents, Keefe D claims that Diddy put a price on the heads of Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. He says Diddy wanted them gone, and he put a number on it, $1 million. According to the court files, Keefe D told police that he met with Diddy. He claims Diddy asked him a question that chills you to the bone. After Tupac was shot in Las Vegas, Keefe D says Diddy asked him, "Is that us?" Imagine the scene. The biggest rap mogul in the world, allegedly asking a gang member if we were responsible for shooting his rival. Keefe D said he told Diddy, yes. This conversation allegedly happened right after the shooting, but it gets even more specific. Keefe D told investigators that the money, that $1 million, was supposed to be paid through a guy named Eric "Zip" Martin. Zip was a well-known figure in New York, a close friend of Diddy. Keefe D says they even went to New York in 2009 to try and catch Zip talking about the money on a wiretap. Diddy has denied this for years. He has always said, neither Biggie nor I had any knowledge of any attack. But now, these aren't just rumors in a barbershop. These are official court documents in a murder trial. The prosecutors are using these statements to build their case against Keefe D. They are saying Keefe D is telling the truth about the hit. And if he is telling the truth about the hit, is he telling the truth about who paid for it? The trial for Keefe D has been pushed back to 2026 because of new evidence. That means this story isn't going away. It is going to hang over Diddy's head for years. While he sits in his cell for sex crimes, the shadow of 2 murders is creeping closer. But the allegations regarding Tupac are just one side of the coin. There is another lawsuit that claims Diddy didn't just pay to hurt his enemies. It claims he was willing to sacrifice his best friend. The sacrificial lamb theory. You might have heard about Rodney Lil Rod Jones. He is a producer who worked with Diddy on his last album. He lived with Diddy. He saw everything. And when he filed a lawsuit against Diddy, he included a section that made the whole world stop scrolling. Lil Rod claims that Diddy admitted to orchestrating the shooting of Biggie Smalls. But he didn't just say Diddy did it, he explained why. The lawsuit calls it a Faustian bargain. That's a fancy way of saying a deal with the devil. Lil Rod alleges that Diddy treated Biggie as a sacrificial lamb. The theory goes like this. The East Coast-West Coast war was getting too hot. It was dangerous. It was bad for business. Lil Rod claims Diddy realized that if Biggie died, it would end the war. But more than that, it would make Biggie a legend, a martyr. And Bad Boy Records would sell millions of records forever. It sounds like a movie script, doesn't it? But this isn't a federal lawsuit. Lil Rod claims Diddy bragged about his role in the murders. He says Diddy used his reputation as a killer to scare people. He claims Diddy would tell people, "I'll eat your face," and people believed him because they thought he had Biggie killed. In March 2025, a judge dismissed some parts of Lil Rod's lawsuit. The judge said the RICO charges, the organized crime charges, didn't fit the specific laws for this case, but he did not say the stories were false. He just said they didn't prove Diddy owed Lil Rod unpaid wages. The allegations are still there. They are still on the record. Think about the timing. Diddy is in jail. His lawyer is telling the judge that Diddy is a victim of Biggie's death. Meanwhile, a former employee is telling a court that Diddy caused Biggie's death to make money. And there is one person who had to watch all of this unfold. One person who loved Biggie more than anyone. And she didn't buy Diddy's act for a second. The matriarch's final words. Voletta Wallace, the mother of the notorious B.I.G. For almost 30 years, she stood by Diddy. She appeared at the tribute shows. She hugged him on stage. She kept the peace because she thought Diddy was her son's friend. But in 2024, everything changed. When the video came out of Diddy beating his ex-girlfriend Cassie in that hotel hallway, Voletta Wallace couldn't stay silent anymore. She watched that video and she felt sick. She did an interview with Rolling Stone that tore Diddy apart. She didn't hold back. She said, "I hope that I see Sean one day, and the only thing I want to do is slap the daylights out of him." Can you feel the anger in those words? This is a woman who treated him like family. She said she felt ashamed and embarrassed that she ever liked him. She realized that the man she thought was a hero was actually a monster. She said, he needs to apologize to his mother. She knew that Diddy had brought shame not just on himself, but on everyone around him. When asked about the allegations that Diddy was involved in her son's murder, she said 3 simple words: "I leave it to time." She didn't say he was innocent. She didn't defend him. She left it to time. She was waiting for the truth to come out. Tragically, Voletta Wallace ran out of time. On February 21st, 2025, she passed away at her home in Pennsylvania. She was 72 years old. She died of natural causes, surrounded by family, but she died without ever seeing full justice for her son. Her death is a heavy blow. She was the one keeping Biggie's legacy alive. She was the moral authority. Now that she is gone, there is no one left to protect Diddy from the anger of the streets. There is no one left to say, "Leave him alone for the sake of the family." The gloves are off. And while the world outside is debating his crimes, Diddy is living a nightmare inside. You won't believe what his life looks like now. Hell on earth. Right now, Diddy is sitting in the special housing unit at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. This isn't a country club prison. This place is known as hell on earth. This jail is so bad that judges have refused to send people there. It is infested with rats. The sewage system backs up. It smells. It is loud. And it is incredibly dangerous. Just months before Diddy got there, an inmate named Uriel White was stabbed to death with a makeshift ice pick. A few weeks later, another inmate, Edwin Cordero, was murdered in a fight. These weren't accidents, these were hits, and it didn't stop. In February 2025, while Diddy was locked up inside, a massive brawl broke out. One of the men convicted of killing Jam Master Jay, another hip-hop legend, was stabbed 18 times in the back, 18 times. Inmates were caught on camera holding knives that were a foot long. This is where Diddy sleeps at night. He is in the special housing unit, which means he is isolated. He is alone for 23 hours a day. His lawyers say the conditions are horrific. They say the food is inedible. Speaking of food, let's talk about what a billionaire eats in jail. Diddy is used to personal chefs in 5-star restaurants. Now, he wakes up at 6:00 a.m. to a breakfast of cereal, fruit, and a dry breakfast cake. There is no coffee. Coffee is only for weekends. Imagine that. The man who threw the biggest parties in the world can't even get a cup of coffee on a Tuesday. Lunch is a black bean burger or Swedish meatballs that taste like rubber. Dinner is at 4 p.m. After that, he is locked in for the night. He complains about the food constantly. His lawyer even told the press that the food is the roughest part for him. But the other inmates don't feel sorry for him. To them, he is just another guy who fell from the top. In fact, he is a target. One inmate, a gang member named Luri Mojica, got sentenced to 9 extra years for punching a guard in the face just because the guard offered him fruit. This is the level of violence and instability surrounding Diddy. A guard gets punched over fruit. A man gets stabbed 18 times. And Diddy is sitting in the middle of it, trying to convince a judge he is reborn. The night that started it all. To understand why Diddy is so desperate to rewrite his story, we have to go back to that night in 1997. March 9th, Los Angeles. It was the night hip-hop changed forever. Biggie was at a party at the Peterson Automotive Museum. It was a Vibe magazine party. Diddy was there too. The vibe inside was good, but the tension outside was thick. The East Coast-West Coast feud was at a boiling point. Tupac had been killed 6 months earlier. Everyone was on edge. Gene Deal, who was Diddy's bodyguard at the time, has told the story many times. And every time he tells it, it raises more questions. Gene says he had a bad feeling that night. He told Diddy they should leave. He saw guys in the crowd who didn't look right. He saw guys making hand signals. When they finally left the party, it was late. Diddy got into the lead car. It was a Suburban. He was safe inside. Biggie got into the second car, a GMC Suburban. He was sitting in the passenger seat. They drove out onto Fairfax Avenue. They stopped at a red light at the corner of Fairfax and Wilshire Boulevard. It was 12:45 a.m. That's when a dark Chevy Impala SS pulled up alongside Biggie's car. It came out of nowhere. The driver rolled down the window. He looked right at Biggie. He pulled out a 9mm blue steel pistol. 4 shots were fired. Biggie was hit 4 times. 1 bullet hit his hip, 1 hit his liver, 1 hit his lung, but the 4th bullet was fatal. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, but it was too late. He was pronounced dead at 1:15 a.m. Here is the question that has haunted hip-hop for nearly 30 years. Why was Diddy safe? Why did the shooter target the second car? Gene Deal has said in interviews that he believes Diddy knew something was going to happen. He claims the security setup was all wrong. He says Diddy was protected and Biggie was left exposed. He claims that Diddy's security detail was arranged in a way that left Biggie vulnerable. Now, connect this back to the Lil Rod lawsuit. Remember the sacrificial lamb theory? Lil Rod claims Diddy made a deal. He sacrificed Biggie to save himself. If that is true, it explains everything. It explains why the shooter went for the second car. It explains why Diddy survived the war and became a billionaire, while Biggie became a memory. It explains why Diddy's lawyer is now standing in court, using that night as an excuse for Diddy's drug use. If Diddy really did sacrifice his friend, the guilt would be unbearable. Maybe that drug addiction his lawyer talked about isn't just from grief. Maybe it's from guilt. The judge's final blow. When Judge Supermanian sentenced Diddy in October 2025, he didn't buy the Reborn Act. He looked at Diddy and saw through the excuses. The judge asked a simple question that cut through all the noise. He asked, why did it happen so long? He was talking about the abuse of women. And then he answered his own question. Because you had the power and the resources to keep it going. The judge gave him 50 months. That's over 4 years. It's not the life sentence the prosecutors wanted, but it's a long time for a man in his 50s to sit in hell on earth. But this sentence is just the beginning. This was only for the sex crimes. The Keith D trial is coming in 2026. The Lil Rod lawsuit is still active. On other counts, the investigation into Biggie's death has never been officially closed. And now, with Diddy in jail, people are talking. The fear is gone. The bad boy empire has crumbled. Witnesses who were once too scared to speak are now coming forward. Mark Curry speaks out. Mark Curry, another former bad boy artist, has been watching all of this unfold. He wrote a book years ago called Dancing with the Devil. He tried to warn us. Recently, Mark Curry spoke out about Diddy giving the publishing rights back to his artists. Diddy tried to make it look like a generous gift. He tried to look like a hero, but Mark Curry wasn't having it. He called it a scam. He said the publishing rights are worthless now. He said Diddy held on to them for decades, made all the money, and now that the ship is sinking, he is trying to give away the scraps to look good. It's just another example of how the bad boy image was a lie. It wasn't about family. It wasn't about brotherhood. It was about control. It was about money. And it was about silence. So, did Diddy finally break his silence? Yes, but not in the way we expected. He didn't sit down for a TV interview and confess to the world. He broke his silence through a desperate letter to a judge, trying to use Biggie's death as a get-out-of-jail-free card. He tried to say, I'm a victim too. But the world isn't listening to his words anymore. We are looking at the facts. We are looking at the 77 mentions in the Keith D files. We are looking at the sacrificial lamb lawsuit. We are looking at the heartbreak of Voletta Wallace, who died waiting for the truth. Diddy is reborn, all right. He has been reborn from a music mogul into inmate number 87592054. He is sitting in a cold cell, eating breakfast cake, listening to the screams of other inmates. And for the first time in his life, he can't buy his way out of it. The silence around Biggie's death is breaking, brick by brick. The walls are closing in, and Diddy is trapped underneath the rubble of his own empire.